Now, of your 4 steps, I bet you did 1, cool, 2, cool, 3, uh-oh. Or you put something together and you're like, I'm not sure if this is sufficient. Okay, so let me walk you through it. Let's test it. Okay, now, by the way, you will have noticed, even though I didn't put it here on the question, that again, this is one of the ones you've got to be careful with. The first allowable value is not just 0 or 1, which are the ones it normally is, right? Because if you had a 0 or 1-sided polygon, you'd be in some trouble, right? So the first allowable value is n equals 3. Okay, so I'm going to go with the right-hand side. Okay, I'm just going to sub it in, and I get 3 minus 2 times 180, which is 180, which sure enough is the angle sum of a 3-sided polygon, right? Triangle. Okay, no problems so far. Assumption. Oops. Okay, now, here's where the challenge starts, right? Because this assumption so far, it's just algebra, right? But when you start to go to the next step, you have to move into geometry. That's why I mentioned that you need a diagram, okay? So the question is, how do you put together a diagram when you don't know, because you don't know what K is, you don't know how many sides this thing has, or how many angles it has. Well, they're really the same thing, right? Okay. Now I think that question is the same question as how do you express or articulate a series when you don't know how many terms it has? Now you already know the solution to that. We've been doing it all the time, right? So I'm going to use the same method for geometry, okay? So if that's my assumption, what do I have to prove? I have to prove that it's true for the k plus 1 case. So this k minus 2 will just become k minus 1. Lots of 180. Okay? So my approach will be to take this, what we're required to prove, and draw it. Okay? So what does it look like? You have to lay down some ground rules, right? So let the polygon be. Now, can you see? I said the polygon, right? So I'm assuming there's some polygon which fits these rules, right? So I'm going to say let it be defined by a certain set of points. Now, or vertices if you like, the points will do, okay? A 3-sided polygon, how many points does it have? 3. And so a 4-sided polygon will have 4 points. And so a k-sided polygon will have k points, right? Now I want k plus 1, okay? So I'm going to call the points, because I can't call them A, B, C, D, because I don't know what the last one will be, right? So I'm going to call them point 1, and point 2, and point 3, all the way up to... Now, because I need to go, I'm required to prove k plus 1, I'm going to go one more. Okay? So I've got point k and then point k plus 1, wherever that is. Okay? What does this thing look like? Well, I don't know what any of these angles are, right? But then again, it doesn't matter what any of the angles individually are because I'm just interested in what they add up to. Okay? So if I start with P1 and P2, okay, and then have another point, P3, okay. Now at this point, if I gave you, say, a series, right, like say the even numbers, you'd go 2, 4, 6, and then you'd say dot, 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 just like I did here, right? So I'm going to go point 1, point 2, point 3, dot, 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 to point K. I have to, right? Because what are you going to put in there? You don't know what it's going to do, okay? It's just going to do its thing, okay? This is up to point K, right? Now, I don't know what's in between here, but I do know what happens next, because I'm almost at the end of the shape, right? So I've got point K plus 1 over here, and then by the end, I whip back around and I'm back to the beginning, okay? So there's my polygon, okay? Wow. So how would I, yeah, classy, isn't it? Now how would I argue from this, and then keep in mind, how am I going to use my assumption, right? How would I argue that this is the case, okay? Well, I'm trying to work in my assumption, right? My assumption is about the angle sum of a polygon with k sides, Okay? I have a polygon with k sides in this diagram. It's just not drawn in properly, right? All you need is another line, well, another interval, to be correct, right? We said a k-sided polygon has k points in it, right? So I should have k points from here all the way up to here, right? That's why it's a point k. So if I join up this, oh, that's curved. Sorry, you get the idea. Okay, I've created a k-sided polygon there, right? So I can say the angle sum of, now, I've got to start talking about these shapes and describing them, right? How would you name this shape? How do we name polygons usually? When I've got an actual one, right, you're like, well, this triangle over here I might call ABC, right? ABC over there, okay? Because we name it based on its points, right? I know the points of this polygon, it just happens that I don't know how many there are, okay? So I'd say the angle sum of polygon, well, it starts at P1, and then there's P2 and P3, all the way up to PK, right? That's the polygon. Again, I can't name all the points because I don't know how many there are. The angle sum of that polygon is given by the angle sum of, I'm just going to say the angle sum, okay, is equal to, now here's my assumption, right? Because I assumed that such a shape should have that angle sum, right? K minus 2 times 180 degrees, by assumption. Okay? So I know what the angle sum in that part is, and now how do I get the angle sum of the whole shape, the k plus 1th polygon? I just have to add up what's left over, which is a triangle, right? So I would say the angle sum of, now, what's this shape, right? Well, again, I want to describe it on the basis of its points, right? But unlike the previous one, I actually know how many points there are here. There's 3. The first one is P1, the second one is PK, and the last one is PK plus 1. The angle sum of this polygon is 180 degrees. Okay. Now I can, logically, I can either say that, because it's blatantly obvious, or if you want to go down the I assume nothing route, it's like, well, I proved this case already. That was my test case. Okay? So it's true. Right? Therefore, the angle sum of the whole shape, right, which has k plus 1 points and k plus 1 sides, is that previous shape there plus the 180 I was just talking about. Okay? So I'll just break apart the factorization. Oops. And I'm done. Okay? It stands to argue whether you want to go straight from here to here. I think it is pretty obvious, right? But then again, induction's been about doing obvious things and making them a bit long. So there you go. It's still not that bad when you think about the length of it compared to some of our other ones like Fibonacci. That was terrible. I think the trickiest part is coming up with your right diagram and thinking about how you're going to use it. Okay? So geometry proofs are really not that difficult. It's just you've got to get the right mindset for it. And you've got to draw a diagram in the right way. I'd like